actually up on the north side of the parking lot. And they're actually not shown on that plan, but there are 2 more up there. The plant currently has 6 parking spots, and that is sufficient for them. They have generally 4 people reporting to the plant in the morning, and then 1 remains at the plant to operate it during the day, and the other 3 go out to various other locations in the system for other operation tasks. So 6 spots is plenty of spots for them, and that's actually what it worked out to. We used a factory use for the plants, and based on the plant square footage, it worked out to 6 spaces. And then you can see a little bit clearer in this plan that north of the garage would be the generator, that rectangle there in the gray shaded area north of the garage. That's where the generator will go. And then the propane tanks will go north of that.
Any questions? Oh, sorry, Chrissy.
No, I was actually going to ask the same thing. Any questions on this?
Michael, here?
Yeah.
Will there be any, you say that generator will be propane versus the current diesel one. Will there be any sound deadening around it to keep noise from getting out to the neighbors?
It will be in a weatherproof enclosure. It's not a soundproof enclosure, but it does help a little bit. And propane generators are quite a bit quieter than diesel generators are. So unlikely that the neighbors, they are at some distance from the plant building itself, and separated by quite a bit of screening with trees. So it's unlikely that they would actually be able to hear it.
So it's within a building and it's vented then, rather than just sort of on a pad.
It's not actually a building. It's called a weatherproof enclosure. It protects the generator from rain.
So it's got a roof but no sides.
I would have to double check on what the walls would look like. Off the top of my head, I can't answer that question.
But it is
Steve
walled.
might be able to, though.
It is walled and has a roof.
We have
Right.
several of these enclosures. Basically, it's you set the generator outside, and then it has a complete enclosure that goes around it. There's an air intake. It does buffer some of the sound. We have one at Public Works on Fairground Road. That's a residential area. We have them in different pump stations, one at Mountain Home. So there are some that we have throughout the system. I think one of the advantages of where this generator is going to be, currently it's on the south side facing the neighbors, and now this is going to have a building. The whole building is going to be in front of this. So I think that's actually going to help for a sound barrier being on the end of the maintenance garage. Right now, it's on the closest to the road, the existing building, and is closer to the neighbors. So I think it was one of the discussions we had about this was to get that generator further back in. So that's what I have to offer.
Thank you.
And any other questions? I can't see everybody. Oh, Gina.
Hi, I had sent some questions ahead of time. I don't know if maybe those will be addressed later, or
why don't we go on with their presentation, and then if your questions aren't answered, you can ask them.
Sounds good.
Okay, do you want to move on to the next? Andrew? There we go.
So this is an elevation of the building. So the upper elevation there is looking at it from the, so that would be looking west to east. So looking in the easterly direction. So if let's say you're standing down at the lagoons and looking at the building. So you would see the piece to the left is the 3-bay garage. And then the half to the right is the treatment building. You can see the window there with a little person inside of it. That would be the main entrance and lobby area. And so you can see that the roof does slope to the south. And that's just to avoid having a drip line in front of the doors that we have along the front of the north side of the building. And there'll be a swale on the south side of the building to collect that stormwater. And then on the lower part, that is looking at the north wall of the treatment building. So that would be looking in the southerly direction. So you can see a couple overhead doors there. One is for the loading dock. We have the an overhead door for the chemical room to be able to get tanks in and out. And then on the very right side of that lower elevation is that's the main entrance again. That goes into the lobby with the windows there. And on the left side, you can see the garage also slopes in one direction, the roof, and that slopes to the east with a swale behind it to the east of the building for stormwater collection. And various egress doors. One of the questions about lighting was exterior lighting. So each one of these doors will have a light at it, but they are going to be all motion sensors. So the lights are not going to be on all night long. So they'll only be, all exterior lights are going to be motion sensor.
Will the lights
So
be shaded?
What was that?
Will the lights be shaded in any way?
Oh, downcast, yes.
Downcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
they'll have downcast, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions on the elevations?
Chrissy, can you just point out on the upper slide how a good portion of the building is underground? I don't know if people really realize that.
Sure.
Where the man is standing, that's a road looking back towards, if he turned, around, he'd be looking back towards Pleasant Valley. But as you come down the road, a good portion of that building is going to be underground.
So the entire southern wall of the building is underground, and the entire eastern wall of the building and the treatment building and garage is all underground. So I think at the highest point, I believe the grade is about 8 feet up from the finished floor elevation of the wall of the building. Sorry, finished floor of the building. So we have a retaining wall. The building wall is a retaining wall along the south and east sides.
Any other questions?
A steel frame building with masonry infill. It will look similar to what the existing building looks like. It'll be that neutral colored block appearance.
I think we'll be getting pictures of the current building later on in Andrew's presentation. Any other questions?
Sandra, I think you can go to the next sheet. This is the south side, so you can see these are the south walls and the east walls. So you can see that they are much shorter here, and that's reflecting the fact that we have that retaining wall along both of those walls. And on the upper portion, on the left-hand side there, you can see 2 hatches on the roof And then you can see that the foundation underneath goes quite a bit deeper there. That's the in-plant clear well, and those hatches are to provide access to remove the pumps that go into the clear well. So they're tall submersible pumps, vertical turbine pumps, and they go down into the wet well. So in order to easily remove them without having to take them apart, we provide hatches on the roof so they can just be lifted right out if they need to be replaced. So I think we can go on to the next slide. This is the lighting plan, just showing the lights on the exterior. So you can see them at each of the walk-in, the pedestrian walk-in doors. We don't have them on the overhead door, the larger garage doors and overhead doors. Well, actually, we do them in the garage, but not on all the other overhead doors. The garage does have them. But like I said, those will all be motion sensor lights, downcast motion sensor lights. I think we can go on. This is looking into the facility from Pleasant Valley Road. So as you can see, the road is gravel, or the driveway is gravel into here. And so we'll be paving that, but it's pretty flat up here. You can go to the next one. This is the existing treatment plant. So this is looking from the access drive across the parking lot into the treatment plant. So the new building will have that same kind of neutral block appearance. A little bit different roof-wise. We won't have the flat roof that this building has. But basically, the new layout, from this view, you would be looking right at the wall of the building. And you wouldn't actually be able to see through to the reservoir from here. I think we can go to the next one. So in this one, you can see the existing generator. That's that yellow box there. And then right in front of that, the green, there's a dark green box. That's the transformer pad. And then in front of that, even closer, with the little vent on it, the white vent, that is the sewer pump station. So that's all going to be eliminated. And those will all be part of the temporary utility plan because we still need to provide all of those services, but that will all be one of the first things that gets moved and temporarily relocated. I think you can move forward.
So those are the lagoons that are going to be pumped out and filled, right?
Correct. So they actually have drains in them, so we can drain them down to some level. We will have to probably pump out the rest. But basically on the right side of this, yes, on the right side of this picture is where the equalization basin will go. And then on the where the pavement is on the right side, out a little bit further, that's where the infiltration basin will go. So we'll have, we'll be removing all the pavement, and there'll be a stormwater infiltration basin there. And then in the western lagoon on the left side of the page, that's just going to be filled in grassed area. So this will all stay, topographically, it'll all stay pretty similar to the way it is now, just all filled in. So the elevation that we have on that pavement around those lagoons will be pretty close to the elevation that will be there after we're done, just a nice flat area. It's probably going to be used as a staging area during construction. And then off to the kind of the upper right of the photo, you can see the intake. That's the raw water intake in the reservoir. And so that furthest right piece of it is the structure that goes down into the reservoir to protect the intake, the raw water intake pipe and valve. And so that structure is what we're going to be repairing in the reservoir. So you can move. Yep, there you go. I think we can move along again. This is heading down the hill to the western side of the site. So the raw water pump station is on the left side. And again, we're not going to be doing much to that building. We will be replacing the roof, and then the rest of it all be interior work at the building. And then that building to the right, that's the old chemical building, and we are just going to demolish that and just restore to grass area there. And then the rest of the driveway, you can see it stops, the pavement stops again, and it turns back to gravel. We'll pave the rest of the driveway and a turnaround down there. There is a path that continues out. We're not going to pave that path. We'll just stop at the turnaround.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Let me just check back on Gina's questions from, I think it was earlier this week. The construction timeline and construction hours. So we talked about the timeline already, the 12 to 18 months. And so there are some material lead times. We have a lot of equipment, filters, blowers, pumps that can take some time for it to be built for this project. So we don't know. COVID has definitely made an impact on lead times. And so we don't know exactly how that's going to affect our lead times. So that is subject to change, but lead times don't change the amount of time that we're actually working on the site. They just, we could have a shutdown at some point where construction stops if we need to. Construction hours are typically, on construction projects, we're typically 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, no holidays. So the contractors are not allowed to work on holidays. So that's pretty typical. I know the request was for 8:30 to 5. It's doing that would certainly increase the duration of construction and would very likely increase construction costs because contractors have those, their crews work from 7 to 5. So if we take an hour and a half away from them, they're going to make that up by just charging us more per hour to work.
I just seen it in the town's information for construction time that was what was the standard. That's why I asked those hours.
And I don't know if Steve or Dan can speak to that more.
That's pretty much what we allow contractors, and we also, I mean, Public Works starts at 6:30, but normally our crews are out there, by 7. So those hours are pretty normal on contracts that we have also.
Okay, so is that just maybe for residential that I saw that those construction hours?
Yeah, I'm not sure where you saw that reference.
Just on the town website for construction hours.
Huh. I'm not familiar with that.
I can look for it.
Brian, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it's in the noise ordinance.
That's what it was. So is that, yeah, it
Go
is
ahead.
the noise. It's the noise ordinance.
I know that we approved a business recently in a residential area that involved a lot of trucks. Does Catherine or Michael or Nora, do you remember that, where we got them to move it from 7 to 7:30?
The meeting, you mean?
I'm not necessarily asking for it to be changed. I don't want this project to go on longer than it has to. So, and I have kids, so I'm up anyway.
So I have a question, actually, Chrissy. When do you anticipate, or Steve, when do you anticipate getting started with this?
So our schedule right now, we're anticipating a bond vote in March, and then going out for bids as soon as possible after that. So ideally, we'd be advertising mid to late March, which would put our bid opening mid to late April. And I think the earliest we would expect construction to start is probably June of 2021. But again, it's going to depend on the contractor as to, you know, what other work they might be finishing up at that time, and also the lead time of the equipment. They might not want to start until they can just get it all done. So we'll have a better idea once we have a contractor of what the actual construction schedule will look like. But that's what we're anticipating right now.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you said when you said about the bond, is that something that's going to be in March? Is that something that's going to be presented to the representative town meeting?
Yes.
Yes, bond votes, they would have a special, sometimes there's a special town meeting.
Right.
When we did the wastewater, I think you recall that, Catherine. That would,
Yep.
So it'd be similar like that, to have some information, because it's such a big item. So there'd be an informational meeting, several informational meetings as we go forward. And then we need bond authorization to receive funds from the revolving loan fund from the state.
Right.
Pretty much mirrors what we did with the wastewater. So it's, you know, low interest loan from the state. So it requires a bond vote. We're coming up with those strategies now. You'll start to see discussions about this as we.
Yeah, I was just curious about the bond situation on when, you know, I was going to say something like the payback, but you know what I mean. How much is the bond going to be for? We were looking at, and if it has to go before the representative town meeting, and is that the construction of this is going to depend upon the town representative town meeting saying yay or nay. Is that correct?
Yes, it's the authorization for the loan, basically.
Right.
Which
Okay.
could have forgiveness in it also. Some of the loans have forgivenesses. So that's, you know, that's a positive. But yeah, that's a hurdle. I mean, back in '89 when we built the plant, the town voted it down, said they didn't need a filtration plant. So we had to go back and present another plan, and it delayed it a couple of years. So,
Yeah, I wasn't here then.
but it can happen. I mean, back then people didn't believe you needed to treat the water.
I
They just
know,
don't.
I know.
And it's kind of
Okay,
crazy.
I was just curious about, the question was asked about the time frame,
Yeah.
and I thought maybe that would be predicated on the representative town meeting.
Okay.
The I looked up the noise ordinance, noise standard, and it's just has to do with the decibel levels during certain periods of time. Doesn't really say work can't start. At
Right.
least not in our in the, I forget what this is called. Anyway, the book that we has all the regs in it. So it's basically the maximum noise levels during certain periods of time, not so 7 to 10 in a residential or undeveloped area is 55 decibels, and in an industrial or agricultural area, it's 70 decibels during that time period. So it doesn't seem to affect the actual construction time. Are there any other questions or comments or anything anybody wants to?
And I just want to point on there that section B of that, so section 322B, says that doesn't apply during construction. So the noise levels can be
I
higher
missed
during
that.
construction.
Yes,
That's the first time I'm looking at it too.
that's why we have a lawyer on the board.
So I think Gina had one more question that
Yeah.
she sent us that we haven't answered in this meeting yet. And that was, what is the risk of hazardous chemicals and or odors being released during construction? And so the response to that is that there is little to no risk of chemical releases during construction. The existing chemical tanks that are in the existing plants will remain operational in the building until the treatment system in the existing building is taken offline. So during the last couple weeks of operation of the existing building, it'll all have to be timed, and we will drain down the remaining chemicals as much as possible during that time period. And then any remaining chemicals, once we shut the old building off, can be transferred out of the tanks using a drain or a portable pump, and we can put them into the new tanks in the new building. And then all of the old tanks will be removed and disposed of in accordance with all state and federal regulations. In terms of odors being released, nothing for odors, aside from exhaust fumes from construction equipment, which shouldn't really affect you as a neighboring property, unless maybe the wind's blowing in that direction, but shouldn't be much of an issue there for the fumes, and no other odors.
Nina, did you have other questions?
No, thank you very much, Chrissy.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, hearing none. Do you have any other comments you want to make, Steve?
I don't.
Chrissy?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay. Then we'll close the hearing part of the meeting, and the board will discuss and vote, I think, tonight, right?
Mm.
So any comments? Stop. I have a cat that's destroying my lamp.
I think Michael has a question.
Michael has a question.
Okay.
Well, more of a comment. I've gone through the plans pretty carefully, and it seems as if we've covered all the bases here. Everything looks as if it was put together rather thoughtfully.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a thought, Maya, and it's something that our land use stuff doesn't seem to cover, and that's security. So I'm kind of concerned about that. I'd like to hear much more about it, but it doesn't look like an area that we cover, really.
No, you're right. I don't think we've ever talked about that.
Well, when I've driven up I drove up there last spring, kind of by there by accident. I said, "Oh, that's where the water treatment plant is." And there's signage there that says that it's restricted area, that there's no trespassing. And I assume that'll stay, right, Steve?
That's only around the facility itself. The rest of the watershed is open to the public and is used by the public, but we don't advertise it. We don't want so many people coming into that area that we'd have to shut it down. But there's all kinds of trails. We maintain the trails, the roads. There's people that ride horses up there. There's bicycles up there, joggers. But around the immediate plant and the reservoir is really a no trespass zone. So we don't want anybody near that drinking water supply or the building. We do have alarm systems. I don't know. I don't think we'd put a security camera in there, but maybe that would be possible. But other than that, we do have an alarm system if there was anybody to break in. There's a full fire alarm system, which will be in the new building also. So it's protected in those and then somebody's there 7 days a week. So that's the other part of it. We have people coming and going. And in the summer months, we're there a good part of the day.
And
Thank
Steve,
you.
just to confirm, this is Andrew, but you have a gate up when not during operational, up during when there is no one there, correct?
That's correct. The whole
the
watershed area is gated. There's access roads, but they are gated, so you can get there by foot or bicycle or horse.
There's a small section in the land use regulations under 307C Part 3. That's for utility facilities. It's kind of vague, but it says site security. Utility facilities must be designed and maintained to prevent unauthorized access and to protect public safety.
Well, if there's ever a public safety place, this is it.
So do you want to put in as a condition?
I don't even know what I would put in, Maya. It's just a concern. It's something I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Some of those things are actually covered by federal regulations, which change over time. So it's probably best to let that dictate security at the site and remain silent on it.
Yeah, it is a federal offense for any drinking water supply. We do have some of those signs out there also. But again, the building's secure. It does have an alarm system. The only thing we don't have is exterior cameras, at this time. But that could come. I mean, I'm not opposed to putting those up. We just haven't. And they're pretty inexpensive too.
Have them on my house.
Well, I would have them on my house if I lived where you did, Nora. She's pretty isolated. Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. In the draft that Brian sent, the draft decision, there are, I think it's on page 6, there are 5 conclusions of law, and we can vote on them as a whole group and just approve all of them, unless somebody has an objection to one of them.
Were these the ones that were sent via email? Because I never got paper copy, and I didn't have a chance to hand copy down what Brian sent. And these were questions apparently that were highlighted in orange.
No,
You know what I'm referring to?
I don't remember anything highlighted in orange.
I think that was what Gina had sent. Those
Oh, okay.
questions were in orange, and
Yeah.
that just
Oh, all
came
right.
in like an
Okay.
hour or two ago.
Okay,
The,
so I
the-
have no idea then what you're referring to, Maya. I
okay,
haven't seen
I'll
it.
read them all, and then if anybody has an objection to one of them, you can say that you object, and we'll vote on that one separately. Otherwise, we'll vote on them as a group, if that's okay. The first one is that we conclude that the proposed project will meet the standards for site plan approval of section 434 of the land use regulations. That's just site plan approval, which is what we do all the time. Based on the foregoing finding of fact, the Development Review Board does or does not approve that does or does not conclude, that the proposed project will meet the standards for conditional use approval. And that's because it's technically grandfathered in, that site. I believe that's right. Isn't that correct, Brian?
So flood hazard and riparian area are both conditional use approvals. So so they go together.
Okay, so flood hazard is the fifth one on the list. And the waiver of standards for section 432, is that the one? I'm sorry, I'm very confused here. That's the one where we have to conclude that the proposed land development will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located.
Yeah, Maya, that one's an error. That's
character.
a drafting error.
Yeah, will not substantially or permanently impair the lawful use of adjacent property, will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. And the next one is that it meets the standards for local Act 250 approval, which just means that it's not going to add to the schools or the, somebody help me. There's another Act 250.
Schools, municipal services, and conformance with town plan.
Right.
And then the last one is that it meets the standards for flood hazard approval. And we have the memo that it's not in the flood hazard zone, except for the grout that has to be replaced.
So why don't we vote on all of them then at once?
Do you want to make a motion to that effect?
Okay,
Does
how do I
anybody
phrase this?
have any
I make a motion that we accept, is that 5?
Yeah.
All 5
Conclusions of law.
conclusions of law pertaining to this project.
Second.
Any discussion? John, you haven't said anything.
Anything to say? I've been listening the whole time.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Raising your
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's 7-0. And then can I have a motion to approve the project with the conditions that are laid out in the draft decision?
I motion to approve the decision for what's in the draft decision.
Second,
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 7-0. Oh, Michael, your hand is better.
Oh, yes, less cat.
Sorry, I just noticed. So Steve, you'll be getting a written decision as soon as Brian writes it and I can sign it. And you have if we pass the bond, we'll have a water treatment plant.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you guys taking the time, and this was a good process, and we like the questions too, and the recommendations. We'll think about the security cameras for sure, and the other concerns, and our neighbor also, consideration for the neighbors when we're doing the project. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Steve.
Is there any other business anybody has? Any administrative issues?
Oh, when is our December meeting?
Oh, I don't have anybody have a calendar? It's a third Wednesday.
I know, is that running, that doesn't run, no, Christmas is the following, all right.
No, it's
Yeah, it's the 16th.
The 16th, okay.
any other business?
Hey, just thank you to Brian and Andrew for getting the background materials on this. We appreciate that.
No problem, Steve.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion
do
to
that.
adjourn. I second.
Okay. All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
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 Good night, folks.
Hey, nice seeing
Good
you.
night.
everyone.
right, so I'll call this meeting to order. And we have the minutes of November 4th and November 6th.
I move that we adopt the minutes of November 4th and November 6th.
I'll second that. Oh, go ahead. Terry can second it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on, we have warrants 11 and 11P.
I'll make a motion to approve bills for payment warrants 11 and 11P.
I'll second that, Carolyn.
Okay. Any discussion? Warrant 11 is for $23,720.33. And that went to the sheriff and rescue monthly bills, highway department supplies and parts, office supplies for the town office, property tax refunds, and payroll transfers, along with some Green Mountain Power. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Doesn't look like we have any visitors. So we can go on to the road foreman's report. And we have the opportunity to extend our current lawn mowing contract for another 2 years at the same price. And in discussions about this, it seems as though everyone is pleased with the quality of the mowing. What would you like to do?
I'll make a motion that we extend the lawn mowing contract for 2 years at the current rates.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Should we have in the motion who the contract is with? Or is that clear? Is that?
I guess if we're extending it, it's with Castine.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
No, sounds good to me.
Great. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the covered bridge, another truck tried to go through it unsuccessfully. And the damaged the east end of the bridge. It's still okay for traffic to go through, but we'd like to get it repaired. It'll probably be, last time this happened, it was covered by insurance, but we've had 2 bids for the repairs, and those were sent around. What would you like to do?
I'll make a motion to accept the bid for Renaud Brothers for repair of the damage to the covered bridge at $42,200.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
Looking at the 2 bids, the Reno one is obviously lower by 7,000. Are they equivalent bids? I mean, they're both doing the same fixing, the same amount of repairs.
Restoration and
Yeah.
Renaud had repaired that end of the bridge last time.
Yeah.
So apparently they using mortise and tendon and all of the keeping the repairs in character with the rest of the bridge.
When I spoke to Lee this morning, he was said Renaud because of the fact, 1, the price, and 2, they've done the work before. So his recommendation was Renaud too.
And I don't know if this is a time to ask this question, but I'm curious, is this going to be covered by insurance as well?
I guess it will be submitted to the, passive insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last time this happened, I think the bill was 63,000. So at 20,000 less, we can hope that
Yeah.
It'll be covered.
Well,
Well, go ahead, Geraldine.
well, I was just going to say, I certainly support Renault Brothers doing it.
It's been submitted to passive, but just to update, there has been no leads as to who did this.
Really? Wow.
Hmm.
Have we done it? Is there any investigation going on from the sheriff's department or whoever would do that?
I
Yeah.
believe it's the state police, but I have no idea. Just that Lee updated and said they still have no leads.
Wow.
If you see a tall truck around town with the top caved in a bit, you can call the hotline and
White paint too. Yeah.
leave a tip. Yeah.
I think the problem is that our restaurants and pubs are closed, so no bartender is going to overhear any bragging, and that's our problem. That's our big problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we got a motion. It's been seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Great. Terry, could you let Lee know that this has been approved and we can
I'll just sign the paperwork, just not that it has any signature to it, just that we approve this, and I'll scan it over to Lori for the morning.
Great. Good. That'll be great. Anything else under the road foreman's report?
Just that the boys have been 11-2, 11-3 leaves and brush, ditch stone on 11-4, working on the covered bridge on those deck bolts, cleaning leaves and ditches, working on Better Roads grants, and also want to let you know that they've been working on Waterman Road stone lining ditches. So that's the only other update.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have anything road-wise? Then we'll move on to correspondence for information. Is there anything there you'd like to discuss? Then moving on, correspondence for discussion and/or action. There was an inquiry. I don't recall who it was. Asking about the spring along Route 30, and that, of course, it's not a municipal water supply, and so we haven't done any testing. It's just like anything else that's going along beside the road. You are on your own as far as putting it in your mouth. We do have some water sample test kits. We could take a sample and send it into the state, or we could say, this is.
Let the buyer beware.
Is there any precedence in Dummerston that the town has tested that water? And I don't mean a town resident, I mean the town.
Let's see. As far as my knowledge goes, no one has actually tested. The town has not tested this water.
Yeah. I mean, my sense is that it's up to the individual collecting the water to test it. I don't think the town has any jurisdiction over or responsibility for that water.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I don't think we want it.
Right. Yeah.
I agree.
Yes. It's sort of like swimming in the river. It's we can let this resident know that water test kits are available at the town office if she would like to follow up on this, but it's not a municipal water supply. So
no,
we probably best we don't take on anything that has the appearance of responsibility.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And I haven't heard of anyone dying from.
You wouldn't hear from them, Zeke.
A good point, Geraldine. Well, so this is a case where maybe no news is perhaps not good news. But we'll remain in ignorance of this. Okay. Moving on to new business. Resident complained about a dog on Black Mountain Road that has a long rap sheet as far as complaints goes. And let's see, the owners of the dog, the good thing is, with a problem dog that has been going on at least 12 years or 10 years, lifespans of certain dogs, we're getting close to the end here, at the end of the tunnel here with this dog. But I wondered if we might just send a letter to the residents, the owners of the dog, just saying, well, we've received another complaint. If you can, keep the dog on a leash, especially when, walking in the public right of way. They've had numerous visits regarding this dog in the past, but maybe having it come on some letterhead might be good.
So is the dog labeled a vicious dog?
Let's see. The dog there have been several complaints over a number of years about this dog behaving in a threatening and fashion, for people jogging or riding bicycles or just walking along the road. I think they've been doing I think the owners have been doing a pretty good job keeping the dog tethered, which they were instructed to do some years ago. But this incident happened when the owner was taking the dog for a walk on the road, and it wasn't on a leash, and it didn't respond initially to any voice controls.
Is there any, under the dog ordinance, is there any requirement for that a dog like this would be on a leash when it's being walked on a public right of way?
Let's see. Given that there have been complaints in the past, and the instructions to these residents were to keep the dog tethered on their own property, so the dog wouldn't go into the right of way. But it wasn't specifically or if you take your dog in the right of way, it needs to be leashed.
Could that be included in the letter, do you think?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it helpful to have a dog labeled as a vicious dog? Like what's the purpose of that? How does that up the ante for anything?
Let's see. No, probably if we wanted to, go to court and seize and destroy the dog or do something like that, that might be something. But if we're just looking for them to exercise better control over the dog, then I think they've, in the past, we've labeled the dog as a vicious dog, or its behavior, was, I know we've sent letters to them, and, ordered that the dog be kept tethered when, outside.
I mean, one thing is our response to the dog owner. Another thing is our coaching of the person who's complaining. And, letting them know there are other steps. I'm hearkening back to, the Farwell Chapman situation, and a dog being labeled as a vicious dog. And there seemed to be a reason to do that was useful. in terms of future action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not certain. We could certainly put that in the letter. That under the provisions of the animal ordinance, this dog is considered a vicious dog, and we want you to continue to keep it tethered while on your property. And if you do go take a walk along the road, have this dog on a leash.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And further to what Gerald just said, should the person who was attacked, or not attacked, but had the problem with the dog,
accosted, yeah,
accosted, should she get a copy of the letter or a separate letter saying that what we're doing?
I'd be happy to, let her know that.
Yeah. Okay.
What we're doing.
Yeah.
I'll send her an email and let her know what we've done in the past and what we're requesting or ordering to be done now.
Good.
So
thank you, Zeke.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Does it seem like I volunteered to write this letter?
It does. Yeah. You just can't get out of it.
Darn. Okay. All right. I'm going to have to pay more attention to the rest of our agenda here. Let's see. We received a request from the auditors for a town report article due on December 11th, but I'm going to be busy writing this letter for the dogs. So
I did it last year.
Yeah.
Didn't I pass it to you, Terry, at the last minute?
Yeah.
Right.
That was mean. I'm so sorry about that. I'm apologizing. Yeah.
Do you want to make how apologetic are you, Geraldine?
I think David should write it.
Hey, that's a good idea.
What's it about?
As long as it's after your birthday. You can do it after your birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have until the 11th of almost a month. I mean, that's.
I guess I could look at the old letters or something in the town report.
Yep.
Yeah.
What it is the town. So what's it called? How would it?
In the front portion of the town report, there are the different committees, send a letter, and brevity of it is its own reward here. A letter just saying what went on over the past year.
Yeah, you can look over the minutes, from the meetings and pull out a few key things and
highlights. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
Great. Thanks, David.
Yeah. Great. Okay, great. That's crossed off our list. We received a letter of interest for the health officer position. I was going to, and we've had a couple health officer issues just recently. The health officer, most of the appointments for the town are year-long appointments, but the health officer is a 3-year appointment. We send a recommendation into the Department of Health and they approve it for 3 years. I was going to suggest that where we're close to the end of this select board's span, sort of like the ghost of Christmas present or something coming to an end, we'll maybe let the new board that is voted in on March deal with this appointment, given that it's a 3-year appointment. And in the meantime, the chair of the select board serves as the health officer, and I'm willing to do that for another couple of months.
So that's great, Zeke. My only hesitation is that when somebody steps forward, you kind of want to get them
Strike while the iron's hot.
Right, while they're, because if you wait a couple of months, then the person may have lost their motivation or not be interested anymore or whatever. So my sense is when somebody steps forward, we should really take advantage of that. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. I think I'm going to suggest we table this.
I would suggest too.
For a little while. Look at it again.
Okay.
But I'll get back to this individual and let them know that, you know, we're just tabling it for the time being, that didn't act on it at this meeting.
Good, perfect.
Perfect.
Great. Moving on. What would you like to do? We have on the agenda, consider vote regarding town meeting in March 2021 by Australian ballot.
Did you mean to skip health officer complaint letter, Camp Arden Road?
Oh, no, I just saw health officer.
Okay.
Okay, let's go back to that. We received a resident called the town office thinking they had a health officer issue. Upon Terry, do you want to take over from?
I'll take over. So I talked to the complainant, had a couple conversations. What this has turned out to be is a civil issue at this point. It's not a health issue, it's a civil issue.
And so where does it go?
It's up to the property owner to
bring it to the police.
Take action. Yeah.
Although it's already gone past that, it would have to take legal action. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't an issue that fell under the purview of the health officer or the Board of Health, which is what the select board is.
Right. Great.
Okay, then back to town meeting. The legislature, in light of the likelihood that COVID is still going to be an issue in March, has given towns the option of holding their town meeting by Australian ballot. So what do you think? What are your ideas?
Where we are in the state right now, I think it would probably be a good idea to go with the Australian ballot in March, because we've got our timelines. You know, of January, you've got to have so much done. I mean, it's not like we can just say, okay, in March we're all set. I mean,
right,
we have to set this up.
Yeah. I agree, Terry. I feel, I mean, I could be convinced otherwise if there were some strong rationale, but with no real light at the end of the tunnel here, I think if we put it, you know, if we changed it in some significant way, we don't know that that can happen either. And so we know that this can happen, and I feel really good about the way we've kind of kept our meetings going and moved business along. I feel like our budgeting process has been very thorough, and we're you know, kind of holding steady. You know, that's our whole kind of modus operandi, and it seems to make a lot of sense to me.
When would we have to, what date would we have to make a decision that it would be on the Australian ballot? Is there some time some date that?
Let's see.
Well, middle of January, we have to have the budget done.
Yeah.
And then we have to have the town reports done right after that. So and then Lori would have to make up she has to make up print up the ballots for just who's running. So I'm assuming it takes a little bit of time to do that.
Yeah, I'd say by the end of January.
Yeah.
That's my best guess.
So is there any rationale for waiting a little bit to see how the number of cases or whatever and the recommendations from the state turn out to be over the next couple of weeks? I mean, it's probably not going to change, but I'm just wondering if
yeah, we would have that option of saying that you know, it looks like it'd be fine to have you know, a couple hundred elderly people, you know, get together and you know, room without much air circulation going. I think we could have time to consider that, David.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Tomorrow's conference call is probably not going to be that great. It wasn't good last week.
Yeah.
I mean, if we could, I think it'd be a good idea if we could just make a decision on this so that we can get people to understand what we're going to be doing this year, because, you know, prep them to, this is going to be different. There's going to be informational meeting, you know, it's not much longer before all this stuff will really start happening.
Okay. I'm convinced.
Okay, but if a miracle cure comes along in the next couple of weeks, we would have time. We wouldn't have to, you know, we could hold it in person. My thought is that at least so far, our budget sessions that we've been working, it looks like we're trying to just level fund
Right.
everything. The same as, so not too many changes from our last year's budget. We might be able to find some savings in the highway department, but it doesn't look like there are any surprises, or that we would use this Australian ballot as an end run to do something, you know, that tricky. It looks like pretty much we'll end up with something very similar to last year's budget.
Right.
So
I wonder if there would be a rationale for having discussed it at this meeting and say that we would make a decision on December 2nd, our next meeting, so that people listening to this know
Sure.
that it's something that we're considering, and it gives people then time to provide any feedback in case there's something that we're not thinking about in terms of consequences.
yeah, that sounds good. Another thing to consider for people listening in town, when you have an Australian ballot for town meeting, you are required to have an informational meeting ahead of it to go over the questions. So it's an opportunity for people to ask questions, but you can't amend the budget. You would either you know, vote it up or vote it down by Australian ballot. So the time to, you know, if you're looking to, you know, increase spending over last year or add something new, the time to get in touch and so we can consider that would be between now and January, when we have to finalize the budget. When we have the informational meeting, that will be too late to change it. So that's just something to consider. So we'll put this on the agenda for our next meeting in the beginning of December then. Sound good?
Yep.
Good.
Okay. Maria, you're good with that?
Yes, I am.
Good, great.
So Zeke, I have another question though. Just thinking about residents really understanding this and understanding the rationale, do you think that there's any benefit to writing up a little paragraph stating sort of what you just said and putting it out in the email that Lori sends out.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I think letting people know ahead of time, getting the word out there sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you stated it so clearly. I mean, I think it wants to be really straightforward and, you know, matter of fact.
Right. Okay.
Would you be willing to write something?
I can try to do that. Of course, I don't pay attention when I start talking, so I'll do my best to recall what I said. And
Yeah, I mean, if you feel fine with it, then,
Sure.
or I'd be happy to read something that you write and, you know, be.
Yeah, I'll run it past you. I'll run it past everyone just
Okay,
so that
perfect.
we can, if there are any comments, to make it as clear and straightforward as
I really think it's the right thing to do because people don't always understand the process of town business.
Sure. We did have a letter suggesting that we wait and hold town meeting in May outside, but that seemed like if it's still an issue, as it looks like it might be, you know, social distancing, getting a tent, you know, big enough, you know, a football field size tent in case of rain, or and just people being worried, you know, I think is a way of disenfranchising people. Fear is, you know, right up there as far as disenfranchising people. Okay, so I'll work something up, send it around, and we'll discuss this, maybe come to a decision on December 2nd.
Great.
The good news about the next item under new business, error or an omission certificate from the listers, didn't get sent around to everyone, so we're going to have to table that.
Well, speaking of the listers, I do have an update from the listers on the reappraisal.
Okay, great.
So I will read that if I can find where my cursor is on my, here we go. So this is a reappraisal update as of the 12th of November.
Okay.
So as of the 12th of November, the reappraisal is 73% complete. There are approximately 269 parcels left to do, fewer by the time of this meeting, so some have already been done. There are 4 people working in town on various days, covering a total of 4 days a week. And Nate, who's one of the people going around town, reports that he has used the camera for 8 properties to do interior views of the house. And David, I believe your house was one of them.
Yes, it was.
Maybe when I finish reading the rest of the bullet points, then you might say something about that experience. So the use of the camera is still a work in progress as the appraisers learn to navigate the equipment and how to communicate with the homeowner. Most people have been very pleasant to deal with. A large number of people have been willing to discuss the house's interior via doorway interviews. And the current plan is that at the end of the initial round of inspections, everyone will be offered the use of the live video inspection process to look at the interior if they so choose. So it would be great, David, to hear how it went at your place.
Yeah, it was very good. Nate came and he initially started asking the questions relative to any about the house and the age and so forth. And when he got all of those questions answered, you know, whether or not there had been any new work done inside, etc. He gave me the new camera, and I think he told me that this was the first time that camera had been used here. And he said, go to, and he wanted to look at the 3 bathrooms and the kitchen, and you put it on the edge of a counter, and you just stand away. It does everything, and he You can talk to him while it's going on. He is viewing. You can actually see the camera turning and going up and down, viewing the areas. And it did not take a long time. It was absolutely fine and seamless, and I think an excellent way of doing it.
Great. Good. I'm glad it was a good experience.
Nate was a very, very polite, it was a very nice experience actually, and I enjoyed it.
Great.
Great.
Thanks. Good.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks, Geraldine.
You're welcome.
Thanks, David.
And Maria, did you get those notes by email?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, let's see. Is there any other new business? We'll just make a note. We have a budget work session for this Friday at 5 p.m. We had been meeting at the community center, but given the new guidelines by the governor, we're going to move that to Zoom format. So 5 p.m. and the agenda that's been posted has the Zoom contact information for anyone interested. So any other new business? Okay, well.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay.
Second
Right.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
All right.
Thank you to Christine and Janet for being here, our ASL interpreters. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to the committee members for coming and members of the public for being here. Yeah, let's start with our introductions. So again, we'll just do names. Lonnie, you want to test your audio?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yay.
All right. Thanks.
I'm computer wizard.
So we're going to do introductions, name, pronouns, visual description, if you'd like. So I'll start. I'm Emily. I use she, her pronouns. I am wearing a very busy shirt with pink and white and black stripes. One of my business shirts. Get down to business shirts. White skin, a braid in my hair. Yeah, and I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce Kaz, if that's all right, who shared in the chat, who says, hey folks, this is Kaz, they, them, or he, him. I'm having a hard time with speaking today, so I'm going to probably be using the chat. Visual description, I'm a white guy with brown hair and black plastic rimmed glasses wearing a flannel. My background is a fairy riding a tree frog over green mist. Thankfully. Thank you, Kaz. And anyone else who wants to can use the chat for this function to be heard in this way. And I'll keep my eye on the chat, Kaz, as well. Who would like to go next?
You go next.
I will.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Darlene, you go.
Sorry, Lana, I didn't see you.
That's okay. You go.
I'm Darlene. I am a white female. I just got my nose pierced and my belly button pierced yesterday. So bear with me. It might be have to cut off screen to just to keep it clean. But I'm having a good day today. I'm glad to be here for another session, and I'm proud that I got my daughter living with me full time now. And let's get this thing started. I'm all excited about doing this. So let's get it going. Hi, Kaz.
I'll go next. Darlene, you are a friggin' joy. I'm so happy about your nose piercing and your belly button piercing. That's so awesome. And your daughter, congratulations. And Kaz, loving your background. I'm Lana. I'm a light-skinned Black woman with new braids. So I'm feeling myself tonight. I've got a navy blue jumper hoodie on with a whole bunch of stuff in the background.
All right, I'll go. I'm feeling some lighter energy in the Zoom room tonight, which is nice to see you all. And I am Laura. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a white woman. I have my nose pierced as well, and I'm wearing white headphones tonight.
Hi, I'm Annalise Griffin. I use she, her pronouns. I have kind of shaggy brown hair and a green hoodie and a CUNY journalism t-shirt on. And my sister and I were just talking about missing our nose piercings from when we were younger the other day. So there's something in the air. So let's all do it. Inspired by Darlene.
Hi, I'm Maya Schulman-Ment. I'm feeling very tired tonight, so that's where I'm at. I'm a white lady with long brown hair with some animals in the background.
I'm Kelsey, pretty pale white lady. I already announced, I think most of you heard me already say that we have quarantine action going over here. So that means single mom alone with 3 boys for a very long period of time. But we're doing fine. And I just am going to be multitasking, and that's okay. And I just wanted to say to all of you that I reached out to Kaz for sort of a consult, and I was just so grateful and received such fantastic feedback as I anticipated I would. So I just wanted to say I love that we all bring such useful and important perspectives, and this lived experience. So thank you to Kaz, and love the background. And I noticed the fabulous braids right away, Lana. That's very great.
I can go. I'm
Sorry.
What's that?
I realized I called I called Kelsey Robin. I'm sorry. I don't know why I have Robin on my brain, and I apologize, and I'm sorry that I just cut you
Hey,
off.
it's okay.
I was like, what the hell am I talking about?
You could pull off Robin. You could pull off Robin, I feel like, if you wanted to.
You could.
Alter ego.
Yeah. Anything goes in the COVID world. We're just all getting through.
I am Shay, one of the co-facilitators. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. I have pale skin. I'm fat. I have wire rim glasses and a long braid and a red striped shirt on in a pale yellow room with a chimney pipe in the background. All right. Is that everybody?
Take a moment to just note Bob also wrote in the chat, hi Kaz, I'm challenged with audio too. So I'll say I'm a white male using he, him.
Great.
Thanks, Bob. And Drift, would you like to check in?
Yep, this is Drift, and I use they, them pronouns, and I don't know if you guys can see the number on the screen, but it's a 401 phone number.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Thank y'all. We'll take a moment to ground. So you can leave your video on or turn it off, whatever feels best for you. And I'm also appreciating the light tone and the light relational humorous tone of our meeting so far. So that might not be where you are at in yourself, and that's fine too. Take a moment just to bring your attention inward, noticing what's present for you tonight, what you're coming in with. We're all coming here from different places, different perspectives. That's what makes this group so valuable. Coming here, committing our time, our evening space to this worthy process. So see if you can take a moment, whether you're on the committee or joining as a spectator and participant from the public or a facilitator, take a moment just to feel the worthiness of where you're coming from, of your perspective, your lens. I notice that we often yo-yo back and forth between, I don't know if I have anything to offer, or I have something really important and I want to be heard. And of course, both of those places are natural. See if you can find in your center the shared experience we're all coming together in, where each perspective is valuable, each lens is valuable. There's no need for the hierarchy of more or less, better or worse. Feeling into your center, what is true for you, your voice. And see if you can find that somewhere in your body, somewhere in the center line of your body. And if you can't find that tonight, that's okay too. We still want you here. Take another moment to breathe into that settled place, centered place in your body if you can find it. trusting that your perspective, your voice matters, however it's able to come through today. And then as you're ready, you can release the practice. Turning your video back on, committee members, when you're ready. And to those who were just in the waiting room for a few moments, I apologize. We were all taking a grounding moment, so we didn't have our eyes on the waiting room for just a few moments. So thanks for waiting.
I'll try to stay on top of that from here on out.
No, it's good to take a moment too.
Yes, definitely. You close your eyes for 1 second.
The waiting room fills up.
It's great. We're glad so many folks are here. We're glad there's
Yeah.
interest in what's going on in our community and our project.
All right. So who would like to take notes this evening?
It's such a cute joke that we play every week.
I know. I just look right at Laura, even though I know she can't see me.
Are you on it, Laura?
Yep, I would love to do it. I am
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Much appreciated.
If I could totally learn how to type fast enough, I would love to try it some night, but I'm not quick enough.
Yeah.
And Kaz is noting in the notes that I just know my notes would be terrible. It's good to know your limits, you know? And Lana's saying, same Kaz.
Plenty else to contribute, Cass.
Totally. And thank you, Laura, for your contribution. And Kaz says thanks. Alrighty, so I'm going to share my screen in just one moment so that we can read our agreements together. And I know that, just one moment, I'm so sorry. We added an agreement last week and I did add it on, but it's like at the end, very bottom of the screen. So I'm really hoping we can read it, but if we can't, I will read it.
That's all right.
And view present. No, view present. Okay. All right. Do we have a volunteer to read our first set of agreements here?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
CSRC agreements. In the process of doing work within the community safety review community, we will aim to be curious, acknowledge that we come from different places and different life experiences, center anti-racism as foundational in this process, center anti-oppression, right? Oppression, including work to avoid and end racism, sexism, transphobia, and homophobia, ableism, Satanism, and all forms of oppression. Saying a suppression can look like pathologizing language, outing people's psychiatric labels, or engaging with people discriminately due to their psychiatric labeling or disability.
Thank you, Darlene.
You're welcome. Those words were hard.
I know, you got them.
You did great.
Who would like to read the next slide?
I can go next if no one wants to. Be kind whenever possible and use respectful language always. Use both and thinking instead of either or thinking whenever possible. Use whoa, ouch, oops to pause, acknowledge hurt, and take responsibility. Acknowledge or apologize when we hurt each other, even if we didn't intend harm. Hold space for probable good intentions while acknowledging that intention and impact both do matter. Welcome feedback and accountability from one another enthusiastically and give it generously. acknowledge the contradictions.
Thank you, Lana. All right, and then our last one, which it does appear as though the last agreement got cut off, so I will read that at the end. But would someone like to read this slide?
I can do it if nobody else wants to. Hold a larger vision of big intergenerational world-changing work and honor realistically the short time frame and limited scope of this one effort inside of that long arc. Be generous and reverent of people's lived experiences, especially stigmatized experiences like incarceration, arrest, poverty, homelessness, abuse, and addiction. Check our biases individually and together. Work to attune to safety, value the quality of our human experiences together, and aim to make things safer while acknowledging that safety looks different for each person and is never guaranteed. Make change in our community through both the process and the production of outcomes. And
really the full screen. Okay, all right, here we go. Just when you think you've got Zoom down.
Zoom's got you down.
Zoom's got you down. Hold responsibility of confidentiality with reverence and respect. No. Hold responsibility of confidentiality with reverence and respect informed consent in how information shared is used.
Great.
So that was the one we added last week. Great. And I just want to note, in the spirit of always learning under Zoom and life, I forgot to pin the interpreter, so I will do that next time. Okay, so we also wanted to check in about the sort of mid-project committee survey, which last time I checked, we had 7 responses. So thank you to those of you who were able to respond. If those of you who weren't able to complete it, if you want to, you're still welcome to complete it. So it doesn't expire. And it was generally positive feedback in that it was a Likert scale of essentially like, let's see. It was like, the language was a little different, but it was like disagree, somewhat disagree, neutral, agree, somewhat, or somewhat agree, agree. And all of the responses on the Likert scales were between neutral and strong. So it was a generally positive response. And also the questions were about how collaborative the committee process feels and how safe the committee process feels. And then there was a space to comment on those 2 things, as well as what we could be doing differently or better and other general comments. And there was some themes in the comment that I want to sort of take a moment to check in with you all about, which is everyone seems to, not everybody, but several of us, and I would put myself in this position too, seem to be sort of curious about juggling the open transparency-ness of the committee meetings and some of the work that we just can't get to in a 2-hour weekly committee meeting, and also doesn't really make sense to be doing in this particular format. So some comments about juggling that and how that feels in regards to collaboration and safety, which were super appreciated and shared. And then also, there were several comments about potentially folks like doing more outside of, like more delegation of tasks outside of the committee meetings, which kind of goes along with that theme. So we do want to check in more about that. And I think just as a lot of the work has been foundational and done, what we've done in this committee has been really, really super important to the project. Like we couldn't have moved forward without it. Now I feel like over these next couple of weeks or few weeks, there's going to be space opening up anyways for some more like delegated tasks. So we have some thoughts about that. and would love to hear y'all's thoughts about that as well in regards to, and I think it's probably varying in terms of how many folks feel like there is capacity for more work for themselves and how many folks feel like there isn't. So yeah, so we hear that. We super appreciate the feedback, and will be, as the subcommittees, the working groups essentially is that we created already, get more momentum. I think we can be clearer also about what tasks can be done by who. We can all get clear about that. Anything you want to add to that, Shay, or any other thoughts from folks?
I think in other agenda items of the meeting, there will be space to talk about delegation of the things that are coming up.
Yeah.
But I want to honor and agree that more delegation is definitely going to be helpful for everybody. And like Emily said, we're holding this really delicate balance between like extreme confidentiality and anonymity and openness. And Emily and I have to hold some of that alone. We can't delegate everything out. And now that we have like the surveys are out and all this stuff is like out and popping, now I think there's space for folks to be helping with some more of these things that are public. We didn't have the public part launched at the beginning, so it was harder to get help with that. But now I think that we've talked a little bit as well, Emily and I, in one of our meetings about just ways to better engage folks. And I think we're coming up with some creative solutions to this funny dance of privacy and openness. So we'll keep talking about it in the rest of our meeting, but I also appreciate the feedback immensely. And I'm grateful for everybody's work and honesty and like realness. And I am really glad that we're all on this boat ride together, or whatever the metaphor is. So thanks.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this before, like Shay said, we will talk more about delegation of tasks or tasks that are delegatable. And anyone want to share anything else about this? Alrighty. Great. Well, thank you all for your participation. And we just want to give a brief check-in on listening sessions and one-on-ones. Oh, Bob is sharing in the chat. Do you have a timeline? For what, Bob?
There are so many timelines.
Yeah, we do. We certainly do.
We have one. We have a few.
In particular, for a delegation issue, yeah. So later in today's agenda, tonight's meeting, we would like to talk about the different working groups we have already and what delegation tasks can happen within those groups that y'all essentially already identified you want to work with. And so we're just sort of like, this is the check-in on the survey, and then we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of looking at the tasks later on today. So hopefully by the end of today's meeting, we'll have a little bit more clarity around what tasks are available for the delegation.
Every agenda item, there's stuff to delegate. Yeah, I think.
Does that
or stuff for people to plug into as they want? It's voluntary, of course.
Yeah, as you feel available for. Totally. Does that answer your question, Bob? Okay. Cool. I'll wait. Cool. Thanks, Bob. All righty. So a brief check-in on listening sessions and one-on-ones. Shay, do you want to?
Yeah. Stuff's happening. Stuff's been happening, thankfully, for the last few weeks. I would say things really kicked off in the last week of October with the listening sessions, because that's when we sort of firmed up our questions, right? And so I've been talking with lots of people, especially people who work in community safety system organizations, I will say, or social justice organizing formations, and holding a lot of conversations, not as much larger listening sessions, but lots and lots of conversations with folks And at some point soon, I think it might make sense, not yet, but soon, to bring forth some ideas that other groups are working on to the committee. I just want to say, like, there are people working on like tandem projects, essentially, you know, in the community. There's work happening about, you know, migrant justice is doing work about ICE and collaboration with police as one of many examples. People who are working on projects that are at least adjacent to what we're working on. And I want to be really focusing on listening, but then I think when we get a little closer to our like recommendations time, I want to bring some ideas to you all with people's consent about what other folks are working on and what they might want our support working on, or what, you know, for us to like toss some of these ideas around in terms of recommendations. But for now, we're just trying to get as many voices into the pile as possible. And we've talked with Emily, and I've shared some of those conversations together. And she's held some alone, and I've held a lot alone as well with people about their experiences. Like I said, there's less conversations happening at this point so far with people who have lived experience of policing and interventions, and many more people who are at organizations. I think that that's a function of being able to easily look up people in organizations and reach out to them directly and push them into having a conversation with me. And it's a little less possible for me alone to, you know, I'm not going to like email somebody and say, hey, I heard you got arrested or whatever, right? So I think that also makes sense in terms of the project. I'm not really stressed about it right now because there's so much opportunity coming soon for people to get connected. There's a lot of responses to our anonymous survey so far. That's already starting. I'm posting that. I started a Facebook page for this Brattleboro Community Safety Review. And I'm posting stuff there. We sent out a press release. We are going to talk today about our public forums so that we can warn those and then release more information about those. So there's lots more ways of engaging like community members who don't work in the system coming up soon. There's going to be listening sessions with different groups of marginalized people, especially soon. Less one-on-one conversations with people who want to share their experience yet. So that's the update about where that piece is going. I don't feel like I can share more. A lot of it's, you know, I don't want to betray anyone's confidence, but I think Emily and I are working on the sort of data analysis part of that as well, inputting that stuff in a de-identified way into a larger tool. But I will say that they're fruitful conversations. There's a lot of overlap in people's ideas and concerns and perspectives about what's going on. And I think it's been really very cool for me to listen to folks and hear what all kinds of folks in the community think about what we need to do next as a community and world. But the delegation item of this agenda item is you all now have links to our survey and you have our email. And I also got us a phone number this week. I did a lot this week, but I also got us a phone number this week through Google Voice so that I don't have to have everybody up in my personal DMs, as it were. But that information I can put in the chat after this. And one task to delegate is, can you send as many people that you know as possible to our email address or phone number or our anonymous survey, especially people in groups that have historically more contact with these systems. If everyone in the committee sent 5, 10, 2, 20 people to the survey or to me, I'm going to have a lot more ability to connect with folks who are living in our community. And that goes for all of you in the chat as well, you know, in the public participants as well. If you want to reach out and talk about your experiences, I'll put our contact info there. Organizations are very largely responsive and cooperative so far and interested, but I think listening sessions and public forums and the survey are the ways that we're going to be engaging with the people who who aren't working in the systems, who just are our community members. So I will send you all an email after this
the one-page flyer that I made this week that has like all the info about how you can get a hold of us and what we're up to. And I'll send you the links to the survey again. Like I said, we'll just send out a press release today. So you all can help us spread the word now that it's all launched. We're going to go for it. I think in the next couple of days too, we're going to launch a survey in Spanish, an anonymous community member survey in Spanish. I just engaged a translator who is super awesome and friendly, and she's just finishing that tonight. Kaz in the chat says, Darlene has a question, and I'm not seeing the Facebook page. Is it public currently? Sorry, never mind, I found it. Yes. I will, as soon as I'm done talking, link to everything in the chat for everybody who's in the meeting to see all the stuff. That's the update about that. Kaz, do you have anything else? No, okay. Lowering your hand.
Thank you,
Darlene, did
Shay,
you still
for
have
all
a
that
question?
labor setting those things up.
Oh, it's been fun. I like talking and listening.
Yes, I do have a question. Where I live is several people that are actively in addiction and have, contact with police a lot. So I was wondering, are there certain types of questions that we should be asking people? And if there is, if somebody can email me a copy, because I would love to reach out to these people that live here where I live.
So Darlene, thank you for speaking up. And I will connect with you as well, because I will be doing in-person sessions at Great River Terrace, and also with other groundworks programs. So there are some communities that